The silence in our Boston brownstone was the first lie. It was a heavy, curated quiet, the kind you pay for with soundproof windows and old money. My husband Adam believed it was the sound of our perfect life. He'd kiss my swollen belly, telling me our daughter would only ever know this peace. But while he was gone on his essential business trip, I was listening to a different sound. It was the frantic, desperate clicking of my own keyboard, a digital heartbeat counting down to his destruction. Each keystroke was a nail in his coffin. Each saved file a shovelful of dirt. He thought I was nesting. In reality, I was digging his grave, and the evidence I was unearthing was the headstone. He went to the Maldives for a Babymoon with his mistress, and I, his 9 months pregnant wife, was the sole audience to the real-time demolition of his entire world. Life with Adam Peterson was an architectural marvel. Everything was designed from the precise angle of sunlight that hit our kitchen island at 8 a.m. to the curated collection of modern art that lined our hallways. Adam was a senior partner at Finch & Associates, one of Boston's most prestigious architectural firms. He built glass towers that scraped the sky, but his greatest creation was the life he built for us. It was sleek, beautiful, and from the outside utterly impenetrable. I was Jessica Peterson, the woman who lived inside his masterpiece. To our friends, I was the lucky one, the data analyst who had captured the heart of a titan of industry. I was now 36 weeks pregnant with our first child, a daughter we had decided to name Grace. The name felt like a prayer, a hope for the future. Adam was doting almost suffocatingly so. He'd massage my swollen ankles, read architectural theory to my belly, and talk about the nursery as if it were his next skyscraper project. Only the best, Jess. He'd murmur, his hand resting on the curve of my stomach. Our girl deserves the world. The cracks began as hairlines invisible to the naked eye. It started with his phone. Once casually left on the coffee table, it now lived screen down or in his pocket. Then came the late nights at the office, the hushed phone calls he'd take on the balcony, the scent of a perfume that wasn't mine clinging faintly to his suit jacket. I'd ask, and he'd smile, that disarming, brilliant smile of his. Stressful new project, babe. International clients. You know how it is. I wanted to believe him, desperately. My entire world was balanced on the foundation of his fidelity. My career was on hold. My body was no longer my own, and my future was inextricably linked to his. To doubt him was to doubt everything. So I pushed the unease down, chalking it up to pregnancy hormones and late-night anxiety. The lie that broke it all came on a Tuesday. I was on the couch trying to find a comfortable position when Adam knelt before me, his face a mask of regret. Jess, he began, taking my hands. There's something I have to tell you, and you're not going to like it. My heart hammered against my ribs. This is it. He's going to confess. The deal in Singapore, it's reached a critical stage. Mr. Finch is insisting I go out there and finalize it in person. It's a make-or-break project for the firm. He looked genuinely tortured. I know the timing is horrific. Leaving you now so close to your due date, it kills me. But it's only for a week, 10 days max. I'll be back long before Grace arrives, I swear. Singapore. The word hung in the air. It sounded so plausible, so corporate, so... Adam, Alistair Finch is really making you go. I asked, my voice small. Alistair was the firm's patriarch, an old-school titan who valued face-to-face deals. His name is on the building, Jess. He said it's non-negotiable. He stroked my cheek. I'll call you every morning and every night. It'll be like I'm right here. And think of the story we'll tell Grace, how her dad closed the biggest deal of his career right before she was born, all for her. He was a master salesman. He wasn't just selling a lie. He was selling a narrative, a future memory. I felt the sharp kick of our daughter, a sudden violent protest from within. I should have listened to her. Instead, I nodded, allowing myself to be pacified by his promises. 2 days later, I drove him to Logan Airport. He kissed me long and deep, his hand on my belly. "I love you both more than anything," he whispered. "Be good for your mum, Gracie." As I watched him stride toward the security gate, handsome and confident in his tailored travel blazer, a wave of nausea washed over me that had nothing to do with my pregnancy. The first 24 hours were a blur of loneliness. I waddled around our cavernous home, the silence now feeling less like peace and more like an absence. I called my best friend, Maya Singh. Maya was a divorce attorney, a shark in a designer suit with a BS detector that was second to none. "He went to Singapore a week before you're due," she said, her voice dripping with skepticism over the phone. "Jess, that's not a red flag, that's a whole damn parade." "It's for work, Maya. A huge project." I defended, sounding weak even to myself. "Right. And I'm sure the client meetings are happening poolside with Mai Tais. Just keep your eyes open, okay?" The next morning, I decided to do something productive. I logged into our shared email account to print some documents for our baby registry. And that's when I saw it. An email from the Serenity Resort and Spa. The subject line was innocuous, "Your upcoming stay confirmation." I assumed it was spam. But curiosity, that venomous little snake, got the better of me. I clicked it open. The email was pristine, professional, and utterly damning. "Dear Mr. Peterson, we are delighted to confirm your reservation for the Grand Water Villa for 2 adults from July 15th to July 22nd. We have received your request for the Babymoon Bliss package and will ensure every detail is perfect for your romantic getaway. We look forward to welcoming you to paradise. Warmly, the Serenity Resort and Spa Team, Maldives." The Maldives, not Singapore. The words blurred. My breath caught in my chest. 2 adults, romantic getaway, Babymoon Bliss. It was a baby moon. He was on a baby moon, just not with me. The screen swam before my eyes. My hands started to shake, a violent tremor that rattled my entire body. I scrolled down, my movements jerky. There at the bottom was the confirmation detail. Guest names Adam Peterson and Sophie Hayes. Sophie Hayes. The name hit me like a physical blow. Sophie Hayes was a junior architect at his firm, a recent graduate barely 25 with wide, ambitious eyes and a habit of laughing a little too loudly at Adam's jokes during company holiday parties. I remembered her. I remembered the way Adam had pointed her out once, saying, "That girl's got talent, a real go-getter." I stumbled to the bathroom, my stomach heaving and wretched until there was nothing left. Sinking to the cold marble floor, I pressed my forehead against the tiles, the shock giving way to a cold, crystalline rage. He hadn't just lied. He had taken the most sacred, intimate concept, a final trip before our child was born, and twisted it into a sordid vacation with his subordinate. He was using our baby, our Grace, as a cover for his infidelity. The tears came then hot and furious, but as I sat there, a wreck on the bathroom floor of the perfect house he had built, something inside me shifted. The data analyst, the woman who saw patterns and connections, took over. The grief was a fog. But the anger was a beacon. He thought I was a fragile, pregnant homemaker he could easily deceive. He thought I was just another beautiful object in his perfect life. He was about to find out how wrong he was. I wasn't going to cry and wait for him to come home. I wasn't going to scream at him over the phone. That would give him the chance to lie, to manipulate, to gaslight me. No. I was going to let him enjoy his paradise, and while he was basking in the sun with his mistress, I was going to collate and weaponize every single detail of his betrayal. He wanted to destroy our family. I was going to destroy his entire world. I stood up my reflection in the mirror, a stranger. My eyes were red-rimmed, but my jaw was set. I walked back to the laptop, my steps measured and deliberate. I opened a new folder on my desktop. I named it Project Demolition. The first rule of any investigation is to define the objective. My objective was simple obliteration. Not just a divorce, but a systematic dismantling of the man I thought I knew. I needed evidence so irrefutable, so overwhelming, that no lawyer, no friend, no business partner could ever see him as the victim. I called Maya again. This time my voice was devoid of emotion. "You were right," I said flatly. "Jess, what's wrong? You sound... I need you to switch from being my best friend to being my lawyer. Can you do that?" There was a pause. "Of course," she said, her tone shifting instantly to professional concern. "What did you find?" I told her everything. The email, the Maldives, the Babymoon Bliss package. The name Sophie Hayes, I could hear her typing furiously on her end. "Okay, Jess, listen to me very carefully." Maya said, her voice a lifeline of calm in my sea of rage. "Do not contact him. Do not let him know you know anything. You are the sweet, trusting, pregnant wife waiting patiently at home. Got it?" "Got it," I replied, my voice cold. "Good. Now you said you're a data analyst. It's time to do what you do best. We need a digital paper trail. Every receipt, every booking, every communication. But you have to be careful. Don't leave a trace." That was my specialty. For the next 2 days, I lived a double life. By day, I was the expectant mother. I answered Adam's daily phone calls, my voice syrupy sweet. He'd tell me about his meetings, how exhausting they were, how much he missed me. "The time difference is a killer, babe," he'd say, and I could hear the faint sound of waves in the background. "Must be the air conditioning in the conference room," he'd cover smoothly. "Of course, honey," I'd coo back. "Don't work too hard. I love you." "Love you more," he'd say, the lie dripping with false sincerity. Each call was a fresh stab of betrayal, but I channeled the pain into fuel. As soon as I hung up, the nesting mother persona vanished, and the forensic investigator emerged. Our lives were so intertwined digitally that it was pathetically easy to start pulling the threads. First, the finances. We had a shared high-limit credit card for household expenses. Adam, in his arrogance, had used it for the initial deposit on the resort. He'd likely forgotten. I logged in. The charge was there, clear as day. Serenity Resort Deposit. Marla Vai. He had paid the balance using his personal business card, but the initial link was established. Next, the frequent flyer account. We used a shared family account to pool our miles. His ticket to Malé, the capital of the Maldives, was booked with points. My heart twisted. He had used the miles we had saved for our first family vacation to fly to his secret Babymoon. I downloaded the itinerary. Flight QR731 from Boston to Doha, then QR672 from Doha to Male. Departure date, July 14th. I cross-referenced the passenger list for the same flights. And there she was. Sophie Hayes. Seat 24B, one row behind his in business class. Close but not too close. Smart, but not smart enough. The real gold mine was social media. Adam was savvy enough to keep his own profiles locked down and professional. But Sophie Hayes. She was 25. Her generation documented their breakfast, let alone a clandestine trip to paradise with their married boss. Her Instagram, @SophieDesignsTheWorld, was set to private. A minor setback. I created a fake profile. Wanderlust Jake, a handsome, generic-looking travel photographer with stock photos of sunsets and mountains. I followed a few hundred travel bloggers and then sent a follow request to Sophie. It was a long shot, but young people often accepted requests from profiles that aligned with their brand. For 48 agonizing hours, nothing happened. I expanded my search. I found her on Facebook, which was more open. Her profile picture was her at what looked like the firm's last charity gala, standing next to Adam. They were beaming. Her friends list was public. I spent an entire night meticulously going through it, looking for the weak link. I found it in her younger sister, a college student named Becca Hayes, whose Instagram was wide open to the public. Becca was a prolific poster, and bless her heart, she was incredibly proud of her big sister. Her feed was full of pictures of Sophie. Scrolling back a few days, I hit the jackpot. A screenshot of a FaceTime call. On one side was Becca's ecstatic face. On the other was Sophie, tanned and glowing with a turquoise ocean and a water villa behind her. The caption read, "My sister is living the dream, so deserved. Wish I could be there, #Maldives, paradise, #best job ever." I saved the screenshot. Evidence item 1. Then the notification I had been waiting for pinged on my phone. @Sophie Designs. The world has accepted your follow request. My breath hitched. I clicked on her profile. It was a private portal into my husband's betrayal, rendered in high-definition sun-drenched color. The first photo was of her feet, painted a bright coral with the white sand and crystal-clear water in the background. The caption, "Found Heaven." The next was a cocktail, a vibrant orange concoction in a coconut shell. A drink a day keeps the worries away. She was careful not to show Adam's face. The photos were all of her, or of the scenery. She was creating a plausible narrative of a solo trip. But she made mistakes. In the reflection of her oversized sunglasses in one selfie, I could just make out the silhouette of a man holding the phone. A man with Adam's broad shoulders. I zoomed in, enhanced the image, and saved it. Evidence item number 2. She posted a photo of a romantic dinner set up on the beach. 2 chairs, 2 glasses of champagne, a path of rose petals. The caption, "The resort staff is just the sweetest, treated me to a private dinner." The lie was so audacious I almost laughed. The most damning piece of evidence came on day 5 of their trip. It was a photo she posted to her Instagram stories, which disappear after 24 hours. She probably felt it was safer. It was a picture taken from behind. A man was standing on the deck of their water villa, looking out at the sunset. He was wearing the linen shirt I had bought Adam for his birthday, and on his left wrist was the vintage watch I had given him as a wedding present. His face wasn't visible, but I knew his posture, the line of his shoulders, the way he stood. I would have recognized him in a crowd of thousands. It was my husband. but it was the caption that shattered the last remaining pieces of my heart. It read, "He said he wishes it was our baby we were celebrating." I stared at the screen, the words burning into my retinas. Our baby. A cold dread colder than any anger I had felt before seeped into my bones. What did she mean, our baby? Was she pregnant too? The thought was a physical blow knocking the wind out of me. Was this whole trip not just an escape, but a celebration of a new life he was starting with her? Was I just the starter wife, the incubator for his first child, soon to be discarded for the new model? The rage returned, white-hot and clarifying. This was no longer just about infidelity. This was about a level of deceit so profound it defied comprehension. My investigation had to go deeper. The personal betrayal was devastating, but Maya's voice echoed in my head for a court for his business partners. For complete and total ruin, I needed more. I needed to connect his personal depravity to his professional life. I turned my attention from their sun-soaked paradise to the dark digital corridors of his business. If he was willing to lie about this, what else was he lying about? He was funding this lavish trip somehow. My instincts told me the answer wasn't going to be pretty. I logged into our shared cloud drive, where he stored backups of his work files. He had given me the password years ago in case of emergency. This, I thought with grim satisfaction, was an emergency. I started opening files, my fingers flying across the keyboard. It was time to follow the money. While I descended into the labyrinth of Adam's digital life, he and Sophie were living out a fantasy. Her Instagram feed became my personal torture chamber, a real-time broadcast of my life being dismantled one tropical cocktail at a time. I developed a morbid, obsessive routine. I'd wake up, force down a protein shake for the baby, and then open my laptop. The time difference meant their day was ending as mine began. I'd be greeted with a fresh batch of sun-drenched photos, each one a perfectly framed insult. There was Sophie posing in a hammock strung between two palm trees, wearing a bikini that cost more than my maternity wardrobe. The caption, "Swinging into the good life." A picture of two sets of footprints walking side by side on the wet sand at sunset. No caption needed. The implication was clear. The Babymoon Bliss package I discovered through a quick search on the resort's website included a prenatal massage for the mother-to-be, a private yoga session, and a professional photo shoot. Adam, my Adam, had booked a Babymoon package with another woman. The irony was so bitter, it tasted like acid. One afternoon, I was scrolling through her feed when a new post appeared. It was a photograph of her standing on the edge of an infinity pool that melted into the ocean. She was in profile, cradling her perfectly flat stomach, with both hands mimicking a pregnant woman. Her head was thrown back in laughter. The picture was expertly taken, the lighting soft and romantic. It was a pose I had done 100 times in front of the mirror, watching my own belly grow. It was a pose Adam had photographed me in just weeks ago in our sun-drenched living room. He had taken this picture of her. He was on the other side of that camera, directing her to mock me, to mock our child. The caption was the final twist of the knife, practicing for the future. Photo creds to the best travel buddy ever. I felt a violent kick from inside me, as if Grace herself was reacting to the betrayal. I clutched my stomach, gasping for air. This wasn't just cheating. This was psychological warfare. They weren't just having an affair. They were role-playing my life, creating a parody of the family he was supposed to be building with me. The winking emoji in her caption felt like a personal taunt. That night, when he called, his voice thick with fake exhaustion, I almost broke. "Long day, Jess. These negotiations are endless," he sighed. "You must be so tired," I said, my voice dangerously even. "Are you eating properly?" "Barely have time for a bite. Just room service and back to the grind. I can't wait to come home to you and my little girl. I miss you so much it hurts." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. He was missing me from the deck of a $2,000 a night water villa, his belly full from a private beach dinner, his skin still warm from the sun, and Sophie's touch. The hurt he felt was the phantom pain of a severed soul. I hung up the phone and calmly walked to the nursery. It was almost finished. The walls were a soft, calming sage green. The beautiful wooden crib Adam had spent a weekend assembling stood in the corner. A mobile of hand-stitched felt animals hung above it. On the rocking chair, there was a stack of books he had bought for her. I picked one up. "Guess how much I love you." I sank into the chair, the book clutched to my chest, and for the first time in days, I let myself break. I sobbed, not with the fiery rage of before, but with a deep, cavernous grief. I cried for the man I thought I had married, for the family I thought we were building. I cried for my daughter, who would be born into the rubble of her parents' marriage. Every object in this room was a monument to a lie. The pain was a physical entity. It wrapped around my ribs, squeezing the air from my lungs. My baby kicked again, gently this time, a soft nudge from within. It was a reminder. I'm still here. We're still here. My tears subsided, replaced by a chilling resolve. The grief was real, but it was a luxury I could no longer afford. My daughter deserved more than a broken mother and a deceitful father. She deserved a warrior. I wiped my eyes, stood up and walked out of the nursery, closing the door softly behind me. I would deal with the emotional wreckage later. For now, there was work to do. His mockery of our Babymoon had given me a new kind of strength. He had shown me just how cruel he could be. Now I would show him just how meticulous I could be. The caption on Sophie's photo, the one about practicing for the future, still echoed in my mind. He said he wishes it was our baby we were celebrating. Was she pregnant? It was the one piece of the puzzle that terrified me. The one thing that could complicate everything. I had to know. I went back to the digital drawing board. How would I find out something so private? Her social media was a curated highlight reel. I needed something more mundane. I thought about her life back in Boston. Where did she live? Who were her doctors? It was a dead end. Then an idea sparked. A dark, intrusive, but necessary idea. The cloud drive. Adam was meticulous about backing up his devices, his laptop, his tablet, his phone. Tucked away in a folder labeled Device Backups was a recent mirror image of his entire phone's contents. It was a digital ghost of my husband, and it held all of his secrets. With trembling hands, I navigated through the files until I found it a backup of his text messages. It took hours to extract and pass the data into a readable format. Finally, a searchable document of his conversations appeared on my screen. I typed Sophie into the search bar. Thousands of messages appeared. A history of their entire relationship, from flirtatious work emails to illicit late-night texts. I skimmed past the nauseating pet names and explicit plans. I was looking for one thing. I refined the search terms: baby, pregnant, doctor. scared. And then I found it. A conversation from 6 weeks ago. Sophie. I'm late. I'm freaking out, Adam. Adam. Don't panic. It's probably just stress. We were careful. Sophie. I took a test. It was negative, thank God. But it was a scare. Adam, C. Nothing to worry about. But Soph, it got me thinking. Sophie. Thinking what, Adam? That I wouldn't have been upset. The thought of a baby with you. It felt right. More right than it feels with her. Sophie. Don't say that, Adam. She's your wife. Adam. Biology doesn't make a soulmate. I know we can't not yet. But one day, that's the future I want. A real family with you. This trip to the Maldives. Let's think of it as a promise. A down payment on our future. I had my answer. She wasn't pregnant. But the truth was somehow worse. This wasn't an accident he was trying to manage. It was a future he was actively planning with her at the center, and me as the disposable incubator on the sidelines. The Maldives trip wasn't just a fling. It was a symbolic gesture, a down payment on the life he intended to build on the ashes of ours. The coldness of his words, the calculated cruelty of telling his mistress that his child with his wife felt wrong. It was pure evil. I saved a PDF of the entire text thread. It was over 200 pages long. This was more than just proof of an affair. It was a testament to his character, a written record of his sociopathic manipulation. The jury, the Judge Alistair Finch, no one would be able to read this and see anything but a monster. The personal evidence was complete. It was a gallery of horrors, a masterpiece of betrayal. Now it was time to uncover the crimes that would be his public undoing. It was time to dig into the finances. If Adam's personal life was a web of deceit, his professional life was a fortress. Finch and Associates was an old-world firm built on reputation and integrity. Alistair Finch, the majority partner, was a man who viewed a sloppy accounting book with the same disdain he viewed a building with a structural flaw. To find a crack in Adam's professional facade would be to bring the whole edifice crashing down. Armed with the knowledge of his profound personal betrayal, I dove into the business files he kept on our shared cloud server. Adam, in his supreme arrogance, believed I had no interest or understanding of his work. He saw me as the creative data type, not someone who could decipher a balance sheet. He'd often patronizingly explain his projects to me, simplifying them as if speaking to a child. That condescension was about to become his undoing. I started where the personal and professional overlapped the trip to the Maldives. The hotel, the Babymoon Bliss package, that was all on him. But the business class flights, I had a hunch. I cross-referenced the flight dates with his work calendar. The calendar was blocked out for Singapore, Ku Tek Puat Hospital project finalization. A completely fabricated business trip. I searched the firm's internal server, which foolishly he had once logged into from our home computer, allowing his password to be saved in the browser's keychain for project codes related to Singapore. There was indeed a project, but it was in its early stages. No finalization was scheduled. No trip had been approved. So how did he pay for 2 business-class tickets to the Maldives without raising red flags? My analyst brain took over. I began to think like him. He wouldn't use the main company card. That would be too obvious. He would need to bury the expense. I started digging into the expense reports he had filed over the past year. They were all meticulously documented client dinners, travel supplies. Everything looked perfect on the surface. But Adam was an architect. He built things. I started looking at the vendor and contractor invoices for his recent projects. He was leading the development of a new luxury condo tower in the Seaport district. The budget was immense, with millions of dollars flowing to dozens of subcontractors, steel suppliers, glass manufacturers, interior designers, landscape artists. It was a forest of data, a perfect place to hide a tree. I began cross-referencing the vendor names on the invoices against the official state registry of businesses. Most of them checked out, major reputable companies. But a few stood out. They had generic names: Boston Urban Consulting, Waterfront Design Logistics, Summit Advisory Group. When I searched for their business records, they were all recently established LLCs with post office boxes for addresses and no public-facing websites. My heart began to beat faster. These were shell corporations. I focused on one: Waterfront Design Logistics. Over the past 6 months, Adam had approved payments to this company, totaling over $350,000. The invoices were vague, citing logistical consulting fees and on-site advisory services. There were no detailed breakdowns, no timesheets. I needed to know who was behind this LLC. A quick search on the Secretary of State's website gave me the name of the registered agent. It was a name I didn't recognize: Daniel Morrison. A little more digging a paid public records search gave me Daniel Morrison's address. It was a suburban home in a town 30 minutes outside of Boston. My next step felt like something out of a spy movie. I created another fake social media profile, this time a middle-aged woman on Facebook. I searched for Daniel Morrison. His profile was private, but his profile picture showed a balding man in his late 40s, grilling in his backyard. His friends list was hidden. A dead end. I didn't give up. I searched for his wife, whose name I had found on the property records. Her profile was also private. But people make mistakes. They tag friends in photos. They join public groups. I found her name in the member list for a public Facebook group for their town's gardening club. I scrolled through the group's posts looking for her name. And then I found it. A post from last year, a picture of a prize-winning rose bush. Several people had commented congratulating her. One of the comments was from a woman whose last name caught my eye: Hayes. My blood ran cold. I clicked on the profile. It was a woman in her late 50s. Her profile picture showed her standing with 2 younger women. One of them was Sophie Hayes. The caption read, "My beautiful girls." The other woman in the photo must be her sister Becca. The woman who had commented on the rosebush post was Sophie's mother. Sophie's mother was friends with the wife of the man who owned the shell corporation that Adam was funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars into. It was too much to be a coincidence. But what was the connection? I went back to Daniel Morrison. Who was he? I did a professional search this time on LinkedIn. Daniel Morrison was a financial manager. His specialty, creative wealth management for high-net-worth individuals. His profile was sparse, but it listed his previous employer, a mid-sized accounting firm. On a hunch, I searched for Sophie's father. His name was Thomas Hayes, and his LinkedIn profile listed his profession, senior accountant, at the same mid-sized firm where Daniel Morrison used to work. The pieces of the puzzle slammed into place with dizzying force. This wasn't just an affair. This was a conspiracy. Adam wasn't just cheating on me. He was embezzling from his own company. And Sophie wasn't just his mistress. She was a knowing accomplice, a participant in a scheme likely orchestrated with the help of her father's old colleague. She was the inside connection, the reason he had a direct line to a man who specialized in creating ghost companies. The $350 to $1,000 paid to Waterfront Design Logistics wasn't for consulting. It was a slush fund. A slush fund he was using to finance his secret life with Sophie to pay for 5-star resorts and business-class flights, and I suspected to build a nest egg for the future he was planning with her. He hadn't just used our family's frequent flyer miles. He had stolen from his partners, his clients, and his colleagues to take his mistress on a Babymoon. I felt a dizzying mix of horror and exhilaration. This was it. This was the weapon. The affair was grounds for divorce. The embezzlement was grounds for prison. I spent the next 48 hours in a frenzy of documentation. I downloaded every invoice from the shell companies. I took screenshots of the LLC registration pages. I created a visual flowchart connecting Adam to Sophie to her family, to Daniel Morrison to the fraudulent payments. I compiled a detailed timeline matching the dates of the payments to Adam and Sophie's known activities, expensive dinners I'd found on his credit card statements, weekend trips he'd excused as site visits. The file I had labeled Project Demolition was no longer just a collection of heartbreaking screenshots. It was a meticulously researched 50-page dossier detailing felony-level financial crimes. It was an indictment. On the 10th day, Adam called me from the airport in Doha during his layover. "I'm on my way, my love," he said, his voice bright. "I can't wait to be home. I'm bringing you and Grace a present. I can't wait to see you." I said, my voice a perfect imitation of a loving wife. But inside, I was glacial. I was a predator, waiting for its prey to walk back into the den. He thought he was coming home to his peaceful, perfect life. He thought he was coming home to his doting, pregnant wife, who knew nothing. He had no idea he was flying straight into the blast zone of the life he had secretly built. And I was the one with her finger on the detonator. Adam's return was a masterclass in duplicity. He walked through the door looking artfully exhausted, a slight tan highlighting the weary lines around his eyes. He dropped his bags and enveloped me in a hug, burying his face in my hair. "God, I missed you," he murmured into my scalp. He smelled of stale airplane air, and something else, the faint, lingering scent of expensive sunblock, and another woman's perfume. He pulled back his eyes, scanning my face, then my belly. "How are my girls?" "You look amazing, Jess. Radiant." He placed a hand on my stomach, a proprietary gesture that now made my skin crawl. "Did you miss your daddy?" "Grace." I smiled, a brittle thing that didn't reach my eyes. "We missed you. How was Singapore?" "Brutal," he said, shaking his head as he kicked off his shoes. "Back-to-back meetings, schmoozing government officials. The usual nightmare. But the deal is signed. Finch is ecstatic." He was so good, so seamless, not a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He opened his carry-on and pulled out a small, brightly colored box. "I didn't have much time to shop, but I got this for you." I opened it. Inside was a cheap lacquered trinket box, decorated with a poorly painted image of Singapore's Marina Bay sands. It was the kind of thing you buy at an airport gift shop for $5 when you've forgotten to get a real present. From a man who prided himself on impeccable taste, it was a profound insult. He had spent 10 days in a Maldivian paradise with his mistress, and he brought his pregnant wife a piece of junk from a duty-free shop in Qatar. "It's lovely," I said, my voice betraying nothing. "Thank you, honey." He then pulled out a tiny white baby onesie. It had "I Hearts SG" printed on the front. "And a little something for the star of the show," he beamed. I held the cheap cotton in my hands. The irony was suffocating. He had just come from a trip where he and his mistress had discussed their future baby, and he was handing me a souvenir for the child he was actively betraying. The next 2 days were a surreal performance. I played the part of the happy, relieved wife. I listened to his fabricated stories of marathon negotiations and bland hotel food. I rubbed his shoulders, telling him he worked too hard. I let him sleep in our bed, the space between us, a frigid, unbridgeable chasm. Every touch was a lie, every word an echo in the hollow space where my love for him used to be. Meanwhile, my real work was happening in the dead of night. While he snored peacefully beside me, I would slip out of bed and go to my home office. There, Maya and I put the finishing touches on the plan. The personal betrayal is emotionally devastating, Jess, but the financial fraud is the kill shot, Maya had said over a secure video call, her eyes wide as I walked her through the embezzlement evidence. This isn't just a divorce case anymore. This is grand larceny. This is wire fraud. He could be disbarred. He could go to jail. We assembled the final package. It was no longer just a digital folder. It was a physical manifestation of his ruin. We printed everything. Every Instagram post from Sophie with metadata proving the time and location. Every text message. Every fake invoice. Every bank transfer to the Shell Corporation. The flowchart connecting all the players. The damning photo of him on the villa deck wearing the watch I gave him. The picture of Sophie mocking my pregnancy. We compiled it all into 3 identical, thick, spiral-bound dossiers. The cover page was simple, printed in a clean, bold font. Alistair Finch and Associates, LLC Internal Investigation. Adam Peterson. Project, Seaport and affiliated accounts. 1 dossier was for Adam. 1 was for Maya's legal files, and the third was for Alistair Finch. Are you ready for this? Maya asked me the night before I planned to confront him. Her voice was gentle. Once you do this, there's no going back. The life you had is over. I looked around the perfect living room, at the art on the walls, at the life he had built on a foundation of lies and stolen money. That life was over the second he booked that flight, I said. I'm just the one setting off the controlled demolition. The day of the confrontation was a Thursday. I let Adam have a normal morning. He drank his coffee, read the Wall Street Journal, and talked about his plans for the nursery bookshelf. He was going to build it himself, he said, with solid oak. Only the best for his daughter. I waited until he was showered and dressed for work, looking every bit the successful, powerful architect in his crisp suit and tie. He came to kiss me goodbye, his briefcase in hand. Have a good day at the office, honey, I said, stopping him before he could leave. Actually, before you go, can you sit down for a minute? There's something I want to show you. He looked at his watch, a flicker of impatience on his face. Can it wait, Jess? I have a big meeting this morning. No, I said, my voice calm and clear. It can't. Something in my tone must have alerted him. The impatience was replaced by a flicker of confusion, then concern. Are you okay? Is it the baby? The baby is fine, I said, gesturing to the coffee table. Sit down, Adam. He slowly lowered himself onto the edge of the sofa, placing his briefcase beside him. I sat opposite him in the armchair, my posture straight. The first dossier was on the table between us, a black-bound book of secrets. He eyed it warily. What is this? I didn't answer. I just pushed it across the table toward him. He hesitated, then picked it up. He read the cover page. I watched as the color drained from his face. His confident masters of the universe demeanor evaporated, replaced by a stark animal fear. He opened it. The first page was the flight confirmation to the Maldives for Adam Peterson and Sophie Hayes. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with panic. "Jess, what is this? This isn't what it looks like. It's a misunderstanding. Keep reading," I said, my voice like ice. He turned the page. It was the confirmation for the Babymoon Bliss package. He turned again, a screenshot of Sophie's Instagram, her feet in the sand. Found heaven. He flipped faster now, his hands starting to shake. The cocktail. The dinner for two on the beach. The reflection of his silhouette in her sunglasses. Then he got to the picture of him on the deck of the water villa, his back to the camera wearing my gifts. He stared at it, speechless. "I can explain," he stammered, his voice cracking. "Sophie, she was having a difficult time. A personal crisis. I was just being a supportive boss. It was a mistake, a terrible, stupid mistake. Nothing happened, I swear." "Turn the page, Adam," I commanded. He turned to the photo of Sophie cradling her flat stomach, mocking me. He flinched, as if he'd been struck. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. "Jess, please. Keep reading." He flipped to the text messages, the 200 pages of his secret conversations with her. His eyes scanned the words, the evidence of his lies, his promises to her, his dismissal of me and our unborn child. The sound of him breathing was ragged. "It's not. I didn't mean it. You meant every word," I said coldly. "But you know what the affair isn't even the most interesting part." He looked at me, utterly bewildered. "Turn to the next section," I instructed. "Project Seaport." With trembling fingers, he flipped past the personal betrayal into the professional. He saw the invoice for waterfront design logistics. Then the next one. And the next. He saw the flow chart, the neat lines connecting him to Sophie, her family, to Daniel Morrison, the Shell Corporation king. He saw the sum total of the embezzled funds, $352,800. This time, he didn't try to make an excuse. He simply dropped the dossier onto the table. The sound it made in the silent room was like a gavel striking down a verdict. He slumped back into the sofa, his face ashen, his multi-thousand-dollar suit suddenly looking like a cheap costume on a broken man. The architect had finally seen the blueprint of his own ruin. He stared at me, his eyes filled with a terror I had never seen before. The charming, confident man I had married was gone. In his place was a cornered, desperate criminal. "What do you want, Jess?" he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Money. The house, you can have it all. Just don't show this to anyone. Please. It would destroy me." I leaned forward, my hands clasped over my pregnant belly. I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right," I said softly. "It will destroy you." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "And Adam, you're a little late with your request. A messenger delivered a copy of that dossier to Alistair Finch's home an hour ago. He should be opening it right about now." The last vestiges of hope died in his eyes. All that was left was the stark, horrifying realization of absolute defeat. The silence that followed my revelation was absolute. Adam stared at me. The brilliant architect, the master planner, completely outmaneuvered. He looked from the damning dossier on the table to my cold, unyielding face. You sent it to Alistair." He finally stammered, his voice a hoarse whisper. "To his home address, I confirmed flatly. I felt it required his immediate personal attention. My divorce attorney, Maya Singh, also has a copy, and an anonymous tip complete with a password-protected digital file of all the evidence was sent to the IRS field office. They have a keen interest in wire fraud and undeclared income. His face, already ashen, turned a blotchy grey. The facade of the powerful man crumbled, revealing the desperate, cornered criminal beneath. "Why, Jess?" he pleaded. "Why do this? We could have worked this out. This is the consequence, Adam." I said, my voice like ice. "This is the structural analysis of your character. The affair was a symptom. The rot was the embezzlement. The lies, the profound disrespect for me, our daughter, and everyone who trusted you. You built our life on stolen money." He tried to find his footing, lashing out with a pathetic threat. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure you get nothing." I almost laughed. "You have nothing left to bargain with. Your assets will be frozen. Your partners know you're a thief. Your only negotiation now will be with the district attorney." As if on cue, his phone sitting on the coffee table buzzed to life. The screen lit up with a name that sealed his fate, Alistair Finch. Adam flinched as if struck, staring at the ringing phone in horror. "You should probably take that," I said quietly, turning and walking out of the room. I didn't need to hear the conversation. I had already set the demolition charges. The fallout was swift and total. Adam was fired by noon, his partnership dissolved to cover a fraction of the stolen funds. Sophie Hayes was terminated for complicity. I had the locks changed that afternoon, and Maya filed for divorce. The whispers of his downfall ripped through their social and professional circles. A week later, a moving truck pulled up. Adam, looking haggard and defeated, collected his personal belongings under the watchful eye of my lawyer's paralegal. He didn't speak until the very end, pausing at the doorway. "Was any of it real, Jess?" he asked, his eyes hollow. I placed a protective hand on my belly. "My part was," I said. "My love was real. Our daughter is real. And that's all that matters now." He gave a slight broken nod and walked out of my life forever, leaving me in the quiet, empty space where I could finally begin to rebuild. The legal fallout was a swift formality. Faced with the dossier, Adam signed everything away. The brownstone, a punitive share of his frozen assets, and a child support agreement that guaranteed his daughter's future. While lawyers handled the paperwork, I began my own demolition, purging the house of his presence. I changed the locks, tore down his art, and packed away the ghosts of our life together. The nursery, once a monument to his lies, was reborn in sunny yellow, a sanctuary I built with my own hands. 3 weeks after he vanished from my life, my water broke. Maya, my steadfast ally, rushed me to the hospital. On a crisp August morning, Grace Eleanor Croft was born. I gave her my name, a name of integrity. Holding her tiny, perfect body, I felt the last of the bitterness wash away, replaced by a love so fierce it reordered my world. She was the purpose, the beautiful, tangible result of my fight for truth. Life found a new, messy, wonderful rhythm of feedings and laughter that filled the house's silence. News of the lives we'd left behind trickled back. Adam's ruin was absolute, disgraced, professionally, financially destitute. He had retreated to his parents' home in Ohio. Sophie Hayes had simply vanished. Her digital and social footprints erased, a ghost in a cautionary tale. Months later, a letter from Adam arrived. It was filled with the hollow remorse of a broken man, speaking of his cowardice and the beautiful daughter he'd seen in a picture. I read it and felt not anger, but a distant pity. I folded the letter and placed it in a box labeled The Past. His story was over. Mine was just beginning. On Grace's first birthday, I sat with Maya on a blanket in the public garden, watching my daughter toddle on the grass. "Are you happy, Jess?" Maya asked. I watched Grace, determined and joyous, chase a butterfly. I thought of the woman I was, the trusting wife, the vengeful investigator, and now this, a mother, a survivor, a founder of my own small consulting firm. "I'm strong," I answered, a genuine smile spreading across my face. "And I'm free. And right now, that feels even better than happy." Grace caught a dandelion puff and blew, sending the seeds scattering into the wind, each one a tiny promise of a new life taking root. Jessica's story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the most perfect-looking lives are built on the most rotten foundations. It wasn't just about catching a cheating husband. It was about a woman who was pushed to the edge and chose not to fall, but to fight back with the very skills her husband underestimated. She used intelligence, meticulous planning, and unwavering resolve not just to survive, but to deliver absolute justice. Her story proves that true strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about what you build from the rubble after the demolition. She tore down a house of lies to build a home of truth for her and her daughter. What did you think of Jessica's incredible journey from betrayal to triumph? Did she go too far, or was her revenge perfectly justified? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to hear a story of strength, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life dramas that are stranger and more compelling than fiction. Click that notification bell so you never miss an update.